My name is Ginny, also known as 2/3 Lotus, everywhere on the internet. This clip is part of my series, The Poets of Twitch, where I analyze my viewers' writing live on stream. Nothing has been edited out, so you're seeing this exactly as streamed with all of the imperfections and tangents that come with being live. If you want to catch me live or want more information, check out the description. Otherwise, enjoy some excellent writing.
When God burns, period. Okay. Awesome. Forward. Is this something that I should read? Or should I just read the poem? Since you sent it with the forward, I'm gonna presume I'm gonna read it. I haven't looked at it yet. It's your call, Imrpenguinoman. Up to you, really doesn't matter. We'll read it. I like reading. When God Burns is a poem that explores the profound physical and emotional devotion involved in a religious firewalking ceremony, reflecting on themes of faith, sacrifice, and the human condition. The poem is not intended to offend any religion or diminish specific events, instead aims to capture the depth of human devotion at its personal costs. The Dimiti festival, or firewalking festival, primarily celebrated by Tamil Hindus, honors Draupadi from the Mahabharata and involves devotees walking barefoot on burning coals as a test of faith. Central to the event is a chariot procession featuring the deity's statue, accompanied by traditional musicians symbolizing the deity's return home after trials and embodying themes of endurance and spiritual purity. Right? So, as you said in your foreword, emotional devotion, faith, sacrifice, and the human condition. You have told me that these things will be in your poem. And if they're not, we're going to have some easy critique for you, right? Content warning: this poem contains mild depictions of burns and slight gore, which may not be suitable for sensitive readers. That being said, anyone watching who does not want to listen to and go through constantly a poem with these topics, please do step away. Of course, I also encourage people to challenge themselves and read and listen to art that is difficult. Hi, Nico. How are you? Glossary. Shruti box. A small musical instrument that provides a constant drone, often used in Indian classical music and religious settings as a background hum to support vocalists or instrumentalists. Nadaswaram. A traditional South Indian wind instrument similar to an oboe, commonly played in religious processions and temple ceremonies. I know, a glossary, Nika, it's very interesting. Tavil, a barrel-shaped drum from Tamil Nadu, played with sticks and fingers, typically accompanying the Nadaswaram in temple performances and processions. Puja, a Hindu ritual or ceremony in which offerings such as flowers, food, and prayers are made to deities as an act of devotion, or in this example, a welcome home. Why are the pronunciations actually good? Because I started to learn Pali on my own time, and I've done a lot of study of Buddhist philosophy, so I'm not completely, lay to it. Kulavai, a high-pitched sound made by rapidly moving the tongue, often by women making a war cry. I'm cooked for the next 2 weeks. Just want to pop in and say hello. Absolutely. The Mahabharata is one of the two major Sanskrit epics of ancient India, the other being the Ramayana. It is attributed to the sage Vyasa and contains around 100,000 shlokas, verses, making it one of the longest epics in the world. You booked so many things. Yeah, I'm so excited for you hosting tomorrow. Videos depicting the festival to be watched only after. Absolutely. When God Burns is the poem. So I'm going to put down the pen And we are going to remember that these are the things we have been told the poem will depict. We'll see if it does. Oh my gosh, first Friday is Friday. That's exciting. When transgender voice crack number 1 of this stream. Let's try again. Nico, good luck with your heavy load of work. That sounds like a lot. You are booked. I stream every day. Just a note for you all, next Tuesday, or not Tuesday, not next Tuesday, but Tuesday, like 2 days from now, I'm going to start doing an extra stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and those are going to be in the evening. And so those are going to be gaming streams, and I'm going to start playing Omori, which should be fun. And I'll bring my poetic and literary knowledge to that very story-based game. Hope to see you at some point. Yeah, Nico, I'll be there on Monday, and I'll be there on First Friday. I'll try to find you. And we'll see what else. Sunday, that's Poetry Arcade, I think. I'll try to go. Unless that's the following week. Regardless, let's read this poem. And yes, take care of yourself, as Penguin says. When God burns. It was midnight. Yet the air throbbed with electric energy, charged by the hundreds packed into the temple, gripping barriers as if they were at a concert. The crowd, a sea of faces, each one muttering a silent prayer. Perhaps it was the throng of politicians and business tycoons, or the droning sound that washed over the gathering by the shruti boxes, echoing through the sanctum like a heartbeat. Maybe it was the 8 Nadaswaram players who had prepared their lungs for this night for months. Or maybe the 5 Thavil drummers, each armed with spare sticks for the inevitable break. Their beats further mic'd up and amplified back into the temple by speakers, where in usual circumstances, one of each instrument would suffice. Then, a sudden trill, a crescendo as heads turned toward the entrance where the silver chariot of the deity loomed. Carried aloft by volunteers, selected for their equal heights, the weight burdening their shoulders. Inside the temple, the priest performed the welcome puja, celebrating the war hero's return. He waved sacred flames in circles before smashing a coconut adorned with ash onto the ground, symbolizing the purity of the deity and the start of a new beginning. After all, this is all just a depiction of a scene in the Mahabharata, where the victorious goddess returns home after days of hell. The King Poyo. Hello, we're reading a poem by Imrpenguinoman. As the goddess is ushered in, the musicians encircle her, their melodies intertwining like threads of smoke, invoking the deity's grace to guide their rhythm and pitch through the night. A bucket of blossoms tipped, pink petals cascaded like blessings, draping her in a fragrant embrace. The divine adorned in gold and floral finery, with jewels worth more than a year's wage for many in the crowd. An opulent vision amid the fervor. As the goddess is carried into the temple, the air hums with tension. The musicians sense the shift, their tunes quicken, fierce and frenzied, the rhythm of war stirring in every beat. Can't believe your YouTube videos came up before my Twitch. Yo, getting popular. Not really. The chariot begins to sway, rocking side to side as if mimicking the battlefield's chaos, jewels clanging like clash of swords, each movement sharp, echoing the precision of a warrior's strike. The goddess's presence fills the space, her energy commanding every body and soul in the room as she begins her war victory dance. Conch shells pierce the air. With their sacred blast, women screech their best kulavai. Devotees throw flowers, their spirits ignited, while some caught in the whirlwind of a trance scream. The tempo quickens and the goddess descends to her sanctum where she finds solace. Thus begins the long night, as volunteers fan the searing coals with palm leaves, the fire breathing in the darkness, milk poured into the puddle at the end of this runway of pain or devotion. The heat is a living thing, so fierce it scorches the air as volunteers douse themselves with water, attempting to kill it. Their skin glistening and raw against the flame. The army of ambulances stands at the ready. Half of the country's best burn specialists and emergency doctors stay on standby in tents close by, with the other half stationed in the nearest hospital in case of an intense accident. They watch just as intently as the crowd gathering around, waiting for the event to start. It seemed like it was quite a spectacle. Nervousness ripples through the devotees as they approach the fiery path. Some gaze skyward with their confidence ignited, believing God will guide their steps, while others tremble, their faces locked into an expression of fear, their eyes flitting to the glowing coals, with whispered prayers trembling on their lips. As the devotee steps onto the path of fire, the heat slashes through the air. Each footfall lands on glowing coals, hissing and spitting beneath the weight of belief. And in that instant, devotion becomes flesh. Bound by pain and faith alike, the flesh swelling like helium balloons, the scent of human char mingling, mixed with the acrid stench of burning air. A scream erupts, tearing from the now raw throat, vibrating the very air around them and peeling away the last veil between the mortals and the divine. Blood rushes, a hot tide surging beneath the skin's surface. The mind struggles with the veins pulsating in a fevered dance, while the skin blisters and cracks, oozing viscous liquid mingling with the ashes and heat. With every step, the world narrows to the relentless fire beneath, each agonizing moment stretching into eternity, as if the ground itself is an altar demanding sacrifice, where the flesh is laid bare and the soul dances precariously on the brink of surrender. Each heartbeat echoes as quick as the tawil, far away in reality, a reminder of mortality, of the flesh that is both a vessel and a cage, as the fire licks hungrily, devouring the essence of their devotion. What was once a pure, symbolic event, a depiction of a scene in the Mahabharata, has morphed into a fervent display of devotion, with many fasting for months, willing to walk on literal fire, their hopes intertwined with pain in the name of belief. How have we come to this? In search of wishes to be fulfilled. They tread a path of flames, transforming faith into something close to despair, a desperate plea for the divine amidst the chaos of life. Religion makes people do incredible things, molding bodies into vessels of faith, where pain becomes a testament of devotion and sacrifice turns into the only language understood by the gods. In the end, as the night draws on, with all the grandeur loud and bright, with all the songs that fill the night, with all the wealth draped in plain sight, with all the drama in God's light, with all the prayers whispered low, with all the drums that fiercely grow, with all the faith on display, with all the hope and fear that never, ever strays in this dance of fire and spirit, what price do we have to pay? When the flames of devotion burn bright, do we find ourselves, or do we lose a piece of ourselves to the blaze? When God burns, by I'm Mr. Penguinoman. Thank you for sharing. Hello, Drowning Devil. Penguin, there were a few, grammatical mistakes in there, right? But those are things that get noticed upon reading, and those are the easiest things to fix. And you saw that, so that's good. Drowning Devil, how are you doing, also? So, we're gonna go back and remember what you said. Physical and emotional devotion, themes of faith, sacrifice, and the human condition. Yeah. Seems about right. Why am I running out of memory? Preview. Go away. Y'all still see stream, right? Okay. Not the best work. And hasn't been polished. Yeah, it'll take time to get that polished. We do. My computer is being a little dubious because yesterday I was working on scanning my big calligraphy poem in giant resolution for the files, right? So I have images now on my computer that are literally multiple gigabytes in size, in resolution, and it makes life very difficult on my computer right now. But it seems like it's fine. And my computer's still kind of confused. Anyway, this poem is very cool. Wow. Thanks, Jenny. What a nuanced thing. Oh geez, yeah. And I keep getting this pop-up to quit applications, which I don't know. Everything seems to be running fine. If stream starts to tank though, let me know. So I think there are a few things I want to talk about. Penguinoman, you talked about how you want more of Bukowski's Bim, right? And I do feel like you have a good amount of movement and energy throughout your poem. You could probably tell by how I read it. There's energy here, right? But I do agree, you said sometimes you feel like explaining what was happening and never got to, what the poem is about. And I don't totally agree, because I think your descriptions are super interesting, but you do occasionally fall into your old sort of, like we saw with the other poem, telling and not showing. You have a few points where it just pulls us away from the movement of the story, right? Anyways, I should give some writing contest. This is submitted to a local Indian youth group that does a poetry competition, and the judge sort of writes poetry, but in a story form. So I was trying to mimic to gather attention, but in that I just completely lost the message somewhere between, and it was really, no, this is not a boring poem. Poem is not boring. This I disagree with. Poem has some things that maybe can be improved, but you write some really amazing descriptions here, and I would not want to call it boring by any means. Especially the way you tie in, this is a big thing, tying in like the music with the story, right? We love our five senses when we read. If we can hear something, if we can see something, if we can smell something, it's great. You do a great job at just the visual description. I feel like I'm one to be able to judge this quite well because I cannot visualize, so if the writing does it well, it helps me, right? And so you have the music, you have the sound, you have the images. I do wonder if we can work with other things, right? You do occasionally do smell, and you do it well, right? With the fire, and you have like the fragrant embrace here, and then of course we have the heat. That's our sense of touch. Taste, I don't know if there's really any taste associated with this. Taste almost ends up getting lumped in with smell, the way that air tastes, stuff like that. But these are things you do well to make it exciting. And I'm going to stand up and pace around and think for a moment and run the first little self-care ad break. So please don't watch it. Everyone make sure to stand up, don't watch the ad, and we'll get right back to this in a moment. Agua. I dumped water on my soul. I hate this game. Let's stretch. Also, I do apologize. I'm giving vague statements and not identifying what the issue is. Truth is, I don't know what it is, and I've been trying to figure out by rewriting new drafts and editing. Perfect. I think I have some ideas of what I think your issue might be based on what you say. And we're going to start at the end. Also, I've realized this. I know I generally go quite fast in some of the analysis, especially with the Bukowski. So if ever you all want me to slow down, please let me know. I think I'm going to add a point redeem that's just like 10 points, channel points. That's just like, slow down. You're talking too fast. Give us some more depth in your description. So if that's the case, just let me know. But I just need to write that down as a reminder. And then I'm going to get into trying to identify maybe what you feel is the problem. But I feel there's something missing compared to my other writing. Okay, so here's the thing. Some lines that stand out to me, right? You're talking about religious devotion. You said that at the start. You're talking about the human condition. And when I read that, I'm like, I mean, everything we write is kind of about the human condition. So what do they mean when they say that? And don't tell me, but you have this line. Religion makes people do incredible things. And this line stuck out to me for a few reasons, and I think this is one of the most important lines in your poem. I also don't think it should be in the final draft. Religion makes us do incredible things. This is a statement that I think has something to do with the human condition. Why we do things, why we do the things we do, why we do the things we do, and how we cope with existence, with life, with suffering, right? This is the human condition to me. Religion makes people do incredible things, molding bodies into vessels of faith, where pain becomes a testament to devotion and sacrifice turns into the only language understood by gods. What price do we have to pay? Do we lose a piece of ourselves to the blaze? These questions seem almost like I'm going to say this again, I've said it before, the thesis or the point of your poem. You do have this beautiful description, but oh so often, right, poetry wants to do more than just describe. And you do a great job of describing, and there's a few things we can do better there. But generally, just description is not enough for certain poems. Admittedly, some people describe things really well, and that's their poetry. They describe nature, they describe art, they describe whatever. And it's great. But I can tell that you don't generally stop there, just judging by the other things of yours I've read, right? My Body Oppresses Me and House with People both have beautiful or horrifying descriptions of things, but they don't just stop there. You tend, I think, to want to say something in quotes. Say something that means something, right? And I think your something that means something is pointing at, I feel like there has to be a message. Exactly. And that's what you do here. You're pointing at religion making people do incredible things. And you have a few other things within your description that lean toward this idea of wondering, questioning the nature of these people doing this painful action, this demonstration for the sake of belief. Their hopes intertwined with pain, pain in the name of belief. How have we come to this? Right? Transforming faith into something close to despair. I don't think all of these things read as you not necessarily having a positive view on the actions taken here. You also do say, somewhere, not intended to offend any religion or diminish specific beliefs. I think that this tells me that you know that some people could be offended by the way that you are depicting this ceremony. Because you are questioning it, right? I mean, your title, When God Burns. Generally, something burning is destructive, right? It's destructive, it's painful, as you show. So to say that God is burning, I don't find to be a positive outlook on this festival, right? And that's fine. That's your opinion. Maybe I agree, maybe I don't. Doesn't matter, right? I don't really have personal stake in specific, Tamil festivals, right? But if we're going to question, if we're going to ask these questions, you said earlier, you feel like you don't necessarily get to the point. Why are we waiting to do all of this until the end? It feels like you write a big description. You start here. This is the start of your description. And then it goes until exactly right here is the definitive end. Because the line following that is, religion makes people do incredible things. And I highlighted this line because it is very much just stating your thoughts. This is very much like a tell sort of line, as opposed to the showing you've done for the whole poem, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It makes this line stick out really strongly. And that's good because it shows you have this tonal shift. But one issue is that the tonal shift, the questioning, the more philosophical elements are this long, and the poem is this long. Right? There's an imbalance. Now, before we read this line, you do have some stuff. Transforming faith into something close to despair. How have we come to this? Questioning pain in the name of belief. Right? Quite a comical difference now that you pointed out. Sobs. Don't sob. It's okay. So, here's the thing though. This is still sort of the end of your section describing what is happening. Right? What was once a pure symbolic event or depiction in the Mahabharata morphed into this fervent display of devotion, fasting for months, walking on fire, hopes intertwined. This is still pretty descriptive, I would say. And here's the thing. I think you can do more of this throughout the rest of the poem. And if you did more intertwining of your criticisms, of your questioning throughout the whole poem, I think it would be much more effective. Right? There are a lot of different questions you could maybe ask, and I don't know which ones you would want to. But let's go back from the start. It was midnight. I mean, that's fine. However, midnight is not the normal time of worship, correct? So that's something that differentiates this from normal religious practice. Again, if you show how this festival and this form of faith differs from the regular, it might help to point out your thoughts. The air throbbed with electric energy, charged by the hundreds packed into the temple, gripping barriers as if they were at a concert. So obviously there's like a big contrast there. The temple and the concert, right? And I do feel like maybe you could find a way to phrase some sort of criticism even at this point. You tried TBH. There are lines that sort of tongue-in-cheek, like the year wage, the politicians and the tycoons. Quite the spectacle. One of each instrument would suffice. Yeah, the concert, kind of pointing out this is theatrical. That's very true. That's also all at like the start, which does set the scene, this tone of you maybe not appreciating this, right? The crowd, a sea of faces, each one muttering a silent prayer. Perhaps it was the throng of politicians and business tycoons, or the droning sound that washed over the gathering by the shruti boxes, echoing through the sanctum like a heartbeat. Maybe it was the 8 Nadaswaram players who had prepared their lungs for this night for months. Maybe the 5 Tavil drummers, each armed with spare sticks for the inevitable break, beats further mic'd up and amplified to the back of the temple by speakers, where in usual circumstances one of each instrument would suffice. I think you can dig more into this idea. You said it there. One of each instrument would suffice. Because, of course, this is showing the disproportionate contrast between regular worship and this festival, which to you seems to be too fervent, too self-sacrificial, too much of a spectacle, right? Too much of a show. And I think maybe you could do more to describe the way that it's like a concert, the way that it's a spectacle, and lean into those tongue-in-cheek phrases. And admittedly, the first section does well, but then a sudden trail of crescendo as head turns toward the entrance, where the silver chariot of the deity loomed, carried aloft by volunteers, selected for their equal heights, the weight burdening their shoulders. So, like, admittedly selected for their equal heights is like, it's imagery, it shows us that they're all fairly uniform, but it's not the most, again, bim 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 kind of line, right? Selected for their equal heights, like, okay. Do we even need it to be carried aloft by volunteers? Can we talk about the spectacle instead here? Maybe that's an option. The weight burdening their shoulders. Inside the temple, the priest performing the welcome puja. Celebrating the war hero's return, he waved sacred flames in circles before smashing a coconut adorned with ash onto the ground, symbolizing the purity of the deity and the start of a new beginning. After all, this is just a depiction of a scene in the Mahabharata. I like this. I like this a lot. Now that was meant to be tongue-in-cheek too. Like, they're so obsessed with making the perfect show that they'll make requirements for who carries the chariot, in a sense. Yeah, so maybe you keep that line, carried aloft by volunteers selected for their equal heights, and make it more, be more pointed in your speech. make it clearer that this is tongue-in-cheek, right? Because in a sense, this really just sounds informational, selected for their equal heights. I don't think it reads well. I understand the tongue-in-cheekness, it being explained, but you don't want to have to explain that. So, dig in, be sarcastic somehow, be understood. It does come off that way, yikes. That's okay. You have the idea there, and the idea is really good, and the way you have this poem, the idea for the poem is brilliant, I think. Especially, going from just a depiction, and the bold here is a good setup, to, of course, turning into this. You do it again. What was once a symbolic depiction, right? So maybe you use this more, just a depiction, have stuff like this throughout, questioning, is this just a depiction anymore, right? As the goddess is ushered in, the musicians encircle her, their melodies intertwining like threads of smoke. Again, really good imagery there. Invoking the deity's grace to guide their rhythm and pitch through the night. This feels like a spot you could be tongue-in-cheek. These are musicians. They're trained. Invoking the deity's grace to guide their rhythm. Maybe you're already being tongue-in-cheek. But, instead of their own skill or something. Be more poetic about it, But instead of their own skill. Don't use that many words. But, they don't need God's strength to play this music. A bucket of blossoms tipped, pink petals cascaded like blessings, draping her in fragrant embrace. The divine adorned in pure gold and floral finery, with jewels worth more than a year's wage for many in the crowd, in opulent vision amid the fervor. That's a great line. And yeah, I think that's good. I think throughout, especially as you go further into the poem, getting to here, I would really start to go heavier with sort of the blatant questioning and confusion over the acts done in this ritual. Right, to culminate toward the end of being what is happening here? Why are we doing this? Right? I think starting more subtle is okay. And maybe that means not leaning into some of these concert analogies, or maybe using them in a way that sounds like it could be sort of fun and exciting and a good thing, which you do. But in a sense, having, as the festival moves toward its culmination, as it increases with that actual tension in the story of the man running across, or woman, I don't know if it was said, also increasing the tension in your mind. You could even create some metaphor, I don't know, this would take a lot of reworking, where you have this person, right, person, I'm just doing them like that, and they're mentally gearing up to run across coals. The tension is growing in their head as the poem goes on, right? Getting toward that moment to run across these coals. And in the same way, the tension grows for you in watching this poem, the only difference is the tension for you is not the actual action. The tension is your questioning of the ceremony itself. I don't know how you would make that metaphor work, but if you could, I think that would be really probably stunning if you pull it off. As the goddess is carried into the temple, the air hums with tension. The musicians sense the shift. Their tunes quicken, fierce and frenzied. The rhythm of war stirring in every beat. I do think you mention war a few times, and I do think that is interesting. Of course, the depiction is like this return from war. It's related, but also war as this violent, sort of strictly non-wholesome, faithful thing could be useful to lean into that idea more. I mean, especially when you do have a war inside your head happening. The confusion versus the culture. Possible. The chariot begins to sway, rocking side to side as if mimicking the battlefield's chaos. Jewels clanging like the clash of swords. You can call back, right? Here with the jewels. If you said, year wage jewels, basically, like literally call the jewels year wage jewels clanging, right? This would lean into that tongue-in-cheek, like, calling back to those things. Clanging? You could also use the noise if you didn't want to. You could, like, add another metaphor here. If you're talking about the clanging and the noise, you could say, like, cymbal crashes in the concert. But using this consistently as a battlefield metaphor is just fine. It's just another option, right? So, energy commanding every body and soul in the room as she begins her war victory dance. A symphony, that's like your concert, of sacred sound. Conch shells pierce the air with their sacred blast. Women screech their best kulavai. Devotees throw flowers, their spirits ignited. While some, caught in the whirlwind of a trance, scream. You put it in bold. Tell me more about these screams in your poem. What do these screams make you think of? Do these screams sound like pain? Do these screams sound like joy? Do they sound like reveling? And probably make these screams in your metaphor a negative thing. Maybe. The tempo quickens and the goddess descends to her sanctum where she finds solace. Here's a good one. Solace from our whatever revels or something, to say that even we have gone beyond what the gods would desire. That's something. That's a bold claim. That would be, dude, what? These bars you're dropping? So that's an idea, right? I'm just looking at what you already wrote and just pulling extra aimbot. Yeah, I've literary aimbot. That's funny. Thus begins the long night. That's an interesting line. If you already have the god hiding from us, I feel like you can tie that in. And with her end is the beginning of our night. Ooh, cooking, right? As volunteers fan the searing coals with palm leaves, the fire breathing in the darkness. I love this. Breathing in the darkness. That's cool. Milk poured into the puddle at the end of this runway of pain or devotion. Yeah, runway. That's like, this reminds me of, with all the opulence, like a fashion show runway, right? I don't know if you can tie that in, but the idea of it being as a display of self. I got it? Okay. Yeah. A display of self over a display of of devotion, right? So you already intended that, so I love that, right? The heat is a living thing, so fierce it scorches the air. As volunteers douse themselves with water attempting to kill it, their skin glistening and raw against the flame. Army of ambulances stand at the ready. Burn specialists, standby, hospital, accident. Seemed like it was quite a spectacle. I feel like, honestly, you can do more to, tongue-in-cheek talk about how we need emergency services at this religious festival. Obviously, the fact that they're here is probably an indication of some amount of excess danger that we're putting ourselves in. However, lean into that, right? We're nearing the end of the poem, right? This is right by my big arrow where we should be ramping up more. And standby, intense close by. Stay on standby, intense close by. It's kind of fun to say. The other half stationed in the nearest hospital in case of an intense accident. Of faith. Whoa. Boom. Easy. Right? It's pretty easy to make it sound unreasonable just by adding a few words, So, nah, man. Bars. There you go. Okay. It's just about tying things together, right? There are emergency medical staff at big music festivals. If you want to tie it in, that's an easy tie-in, right? You already used the metaphor. Just use it again, right? I don't know how you would do that, but you could. Nervousness ripples through the devotees as they approach the fiery path. Some gaze skyward with their confidence ignited, believing God will guide their steps, while others tremble, their faces locked into an expression of fear, their eyes flitting to the glowing coals, with whispered prayers trembling on their lips. As the devotee steps on the path of fire, the heat slashes through the air. Each footfall lands on glowing coals, hissing and spitting beneath the weight of belief. And in that instant, devotion becomes flesh. Bound by pain and faith alike, the flesh swelling like helium balloons, the scent of human char mingling, mixed with the acrid stench of burning air, a scream erupts, tearing from the now raw throat, vibrating the very air around them, and peeling away the last veil between mortals and divine. I think this stanza is just such good imagery of this person's pain and suffering that this needs no additional help. You can probably do more. You can make it more grotesque. But I like this. Blood rushes, a hot tide surging. Beneath the skin's surface, the mind struggles with the veins pulsating in a fevered dance, while the skin blisters and cracks, oozing viscous liquid, mingling with the ashes and heat. I don't actually know how much this stanza does at all. We already have like really good stuff here. I don't know. It's where I'm comfortable in a writing sense, so I can let that loose. Yeah, like this is good imagery again, but I do feel like this like stanza is just less effective than the one before. Like it feels like we've already reached the climax of this moment, the last veil between the mortals and the divine peeling away. And then you just tack on blood rushes, a hot tide surging beneath the skin surface. The mind struggles with the veins pulsating in a fevered dance, while the skin blisters and cracks, oozing viscous liquid, mingling with the ashes and heat. I don't know. Trying to describe the body cracking under the pressure. Interesting. I see. You talk about somewhere else the pressure of faith, right? The weight of belief. So, yeah. Weight, pressure. I mean, these people are running. Running requires you to go fast. Weight is a bad thing. Pressure, I don't know. You could go back to I mean you could talk about, in a sense, them being on stage. If we want to lean into like the music or the concert thing, that this is a stage, that they have the pressure of the people around them, right? This might be a good thing. You already talk about a fevered dance. I don't know how you would do that. With every step, the world narrows to the relentless fire beneath, each agonizing moment stretching into eternity as if the ground itself is an altar demanding sacrifice, where flesh is laid bare and the soul dances precariously on the brink of surrender. Each heartbeat echoes as quickly as the thavil, far away in reality, a reminder of mortality. I like this, that it's like far away. Literally losing their grasp on like senses and stuff. Devouring the very essence of their devotion. What was once a pure symbolic event, a depiction of a scene in the Mahabharata, has morphed into this. A fervent display of devotion. Many fasting for months, willing to walk on literal fire, their hopes intertwined with pain in the name of belief. How have we come to this? How have we come to this is like a huge line. I almost feel like this should be the end of a stanza, or the start of a stanza. In search of wishes to be fulfilled, they tread a path of flames, transforming faith into something close to despair. A desperate plea for the divine, amidst the chaos of life. You could use this chaos of life thing like there's a certainty in walking on hot coals to, in the name of faith, like the degree of pain, the degree of suffering is going to elicit something in you, something certain in a life of chaos. And I presume that's what this is getting at. I think you could lean into that idea more, maybe. Religion makes people do incredible things, molding bodies into vessels of faith, where pain becomes a testament to devotion and sacrifice turns into the only language understood by the gods. You might then ask the question somewhere, if the gods really understand this, in the same way of the idea before, if we want to lean into it, of the God finding solace from us, right? That's an option. But again, very, very strong statement. Likely to enrage. In the end, as the night draws on, with all the grandeur, loud and bright, with all the songs that fill the night, with all the wealth draped in plain sight, with all the drama in God's light, all the prayers whispered low, all the drums that fiercely grow. So I like this dynamic, the drums versus the prayers. You could maybe lean into this. You have the people whispering prayers to themselves earlier. You could talk about the drums and the spectacle drowning it out, right? Drowning the people out so that not even the gods can hear them. Oh. That would work. Drowned out so that the gods can't hear. God damn. I know I'm sort of doing a lot of like writing for you. I just like this poem. I might need to credit you. I don't need credit. I'm just giving ideas. I like writing about religion too. It's a something I really like. With all the faith on display, with all the hope and fear that never ever strays. In this dance of fire and spirit, what price do we have to pay? Truth is, I've kind of been burnt out on this poem anyway, so it's so refreshing. Yes, sometimes you just need another set of eyes. When the flames of devotion burn bright, do we find ourselves, or do we lose a piece of ourselves to the blaze? Now, we titled the poem When God Burns, and I want to go back to that after I run a quick ad break, stand up, drink some water, and stretch for myself, rest my voice, as you all should rest your eyes from the screen, and stand up and take a moment to stretch a little bit. Good stuff, Jenny. Good stuff. Drinky, drinky. We back. Welcome back. I'm still Ginny, still known as 2/3 Lotus, still known as Charles Bukowski's #1 simp. And we are reading When God Burns by Imrpenguinoman. And we're going to talk about the title. When God Burns. I think the title says so much that you don't utilize. Now that we've gone through, seeing that you like my ideas. Burning, to be destroyed. Right? You do like the ideas of God taking solace from us. These kinds of things. You said somewhere, where's chat? Somewhere you said, I'm Mr. Penguinoman in chat, like, let's be inflammatory, I think I saw that. So, the title, When God Burns. This festival, in an attempt to not burn oneself, I mean, you try to theoretically run and not get burned, right? I like the title a lot, because you see it like God burning the people. Yes, God burning the people, but also, what I want to lean into is the people burning God. Some people might not like to hear that, but you do already take this extreme, it's getting more extreme. I'm pushing you in this direction. But, you say that where she finds solace in her sanctum, and you like this idea, talk about, drowned out by the drums, not hearing them. So why not, yes, organized religion ruins faith, you say, is kind of your point. So, not to say that that's necessarily true, I kind of lean toward that opinion as well, but I'm not going to say much more than that. There are good things about organized religion, but yeah, not understood. Like, we can talk about how people aren't understood by the gods, how this fire is in the way of communication, how we are literally, through this thing, burning the gods with our actions as we burn ourselves. Right? Maybe talk about, this would be a wild choice, as the person is running across the coals, talk about the god feeling the same pain as them. That would be heavy. Or how in this moment, there you've sort of just the idea, never further from God, right? That would be like this idea that this brings us away from and thus burns God instead of brings us closer and brings us faith. It only brings us pain. That would be, I would say, it would be a more nuanced critique of what is going on instead of what you started with, which is more of a questioning. Do we lose a piece of ourselves to the blaze? You can also ask if we lose God to the blaze. You can talk about, and then this works really well, with the equivocation of like God and oneself, I don't know particularly enough about this specific part of Hinduism, but I do know that Atman means self, roughly, and that there is Atman, there is God, there is self in everything, right? That's like a Hindu thing. So to say that we burn ourselves, we burn God. And I don't know if you have nuanced religious takes or understanding of this whole dynamic, because I don't know much about Hinduism and I don't feel comfortable saying more. I have the Bhagavad Gita on my shelf. I need to read it, but I haven't done that yet. Mellow in Tears, hello and welcome. How are you? So, but these are all dynamics that you could point at. Yeah, the Bhagavad Gita. So you could definitely lean into this idea of, as we are burning ourselves, we are burning God right alongside with us. That would be quite the take. What are you reading today? I'm reading When God Burns by Imrpenguinoman. Yeah, it's long. But it's good. It has a lot going on. It does have a lot of bim bim bim. We've got some more bim 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 in it now. I'd say, talked about it being, getting some more inflammatory ideas in here and really digging into the critique of faith. And don't apologize. Writing long poems is good. I can't write like this, and that's awesome that you can, because I get to read it. So, I think should I watch these videos? Are these, like, safe enough to watch on stream? I know that the firewalking, like, is there gonna be full-on, like, suffering screaming, or is it gonna be a little more tame? Because I don't want to show literal firewalking. Is safe? Okay, so we're gonna watch the videos that Penguin included here, and these are videos of firewalking in this ceremony described, and it does show them walking on cool. No, okay, yeah. So if y'all don't want to watch, like, click off for a moment. But it sounds like it should be okay. And I'm going to pull this up. We're going to watch it, and then I'm going to do, like, probably the last read of this poem. But if anyone else around has... Let me stick to the chariot procession. I'm not super concerned. It's also, like, you know, a religious festival. I'm not... Like, I don't think Twitch would stop me from showing that, you know? Let me copy this link, copy, paste and go, grab the chariot procession, don't play yet, grab the firewalking. Okay, that one's playing. Hold on, pause. Whoa, that's wild. Okay. This has an ad. Okay. So let's switch to the screen. Look at that. Pull this over. Skip these ads. Okay. You've got it at the right time. Okay, so these are described in the poem by Penguinoman. And I guess shouldn't show that. But we have the entrance of the goddess first. As the goddess is ushered in, then a sudden trail, a crescendo, as heads turn toward the entrance, where the silver chariot of the deity loomed. And I can't see chat right now, so bear with me. carried aloft by volunteers selected for their equal heights, the weight burdening their shoulders. Inside the temple, the priest performed the welcome puja, celebrating the war hero's return. He waved sacred flames in circles before smashing a coconut adorned with ash onto the ground, symbolizing the purity of the deity and the start of a new beginning. I can actually show you all this here. Start of a new beginning. After all, this was just a depiction of a scene in the Mahabharata where the victorious goddess returns home from days after hell. Goddess is ushered in, musicians encircle her, melodies like threads of smoke, all this stuff, bunch of opulence. This is what we are going to see here. Right. Can I go from the start? Seconds actually I don't mean. Okay. Yeah, we can go from the start. So this is that first one. And let me check volume. I think this is about the good volume for stream. Halfway. Let's see. Let me know if it's too loud. This is making me like... Drag out for a bit so you can skip it if it's too long. Oh. Oh. Meter change. I like the music. Okay, I see. So it really like builds, and you do describe that in the poem. So that's really cool. It's so incredibly loud in real life, I bet. Yeah. So many of these drums, all that. And are those like horns, like the conch shells right now? Or is that something else? Obviously the melody is like the oboe-like thing you described. Okay. Mine too. You can see the golden stuff? Yeah. So opulent here with this jewelry, like the crystals on the trident. You can barely even see, I feel, like the god underneath I mean, look at these like chalices. They are so... I think it's like 180k. In what currency? But yeah, this is insane. So then the other one is the fire walking. I'm trying to close this pop-up. Hopefully it doesn't come back up. Someone yelling at me about my computer's RAM. Yep. I don't want to do that. Everything's running fine. Go away. To the corner. Here's the fire walking. And I guess before we watch it, we'll go back here. Nervousness ripples through the devotees as they approach the fiery path. Some gaze skyward with their confidence ignited, believing God will guide their steps, while others tremble, their faces locked into... I have to move this. Hold on. Their faces locked into an expression of fear, their eyes flitting to the glowing coals, whispered prayers trembling along their lips. 136. Okay, that's still a lot. As the devotee steps into the path of the fire, you can get a new Cybertruck with that money. The heat slashes through the air. Each footfall lands on glowing coals, hissing and spitting beneath the weight of belief, and in that instance, devotion becomes flesh bound by pain and faith alike. Flesh is swelling like helium balloons, the scent of human char, mixed with the acrid stench of burning air. A scream erupts, tearing from the now raw throat, vibrating the very air around them, peeling away the last veil between mortals and divine. And then more stuff. They had a big case where the priest pawned some jewels. Yikes. It angers me so much, man. That only men do this? Oh, or that the whole thing just angers you. That it's like, just anger-inducing. The entire thing. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, no, it's wild that this is like in the name of religion, right? Wonder if anyone has ever fallen face first. Probably. Not where you live. Wow. But in India? Oh, that guy's just cool and collected. Children have fell? Oh my gosh. That guy almost... Wow. Look. It's... Ah. Go away. That is wild. So... And still the music going, of course, the sort of spectacle of it all. I definitely see how that is just so... Could be so angering. Yeah, and I think you did a really good... Sorry for showing you all that, but yeah, that's what the poem is about. Yeah, no worries, I'm not too disturbed, I suppose. So... if you don't have any other questions about the poem, I think I've given you some ideas. I think we've gone through it. I think it's a really cool poem and just needs a little reworking. I'll read it again, and then we will move on to other things. Sound good? Or do we have more inquiry? Let me get this back. Yup. Okay, cool. There's stream. Okay. When God burns. It was midnight. Yet the air throbbed with electric energy, charged by the hundreds packed into the temple, gripping barriers as if they were at a concert. The crowd, a sea of faces, each one muttering a silent prayer. Perhaps it was the throng of politicians and business tycoons, or the droning sound that washed over the gathering by the shruti boxes. Echoing through the sanctum like a heartbeat, maybe it was the 8 Nada Swaram players who had prepared their lungs for this night for months, or maybe the 5 Tawil drummers, each armed with spare sticks for the inevitable break, their beats further mic'd up and amplified back into the temple by speakers where, in usual circumstances, one of each instrument would suffice. Then, a sudden trill, a crescendo as heads turned toward the entrance where the silver chariot of the deity loomed, carried aloft by volunteers selected for their equal heights. The weight burdening their shoulders, inside the temple, the priest performed the welcome puja. Celebrating the war hero's return, he waved sacred flames in circles before smashing a coconut adorned with ash onto the ground, symbolizing the purity of the deity and the start of a new beginning. After all, this is all just a depiction of a scene in the Mahabharata, where the victorious goddess returns home after days of hell. As the goddess is ushered in, the musicians encircle her, their melodies intertwining like threads of smoke, invoking the deity's grace to guide their rhythm and pitch through the night. A bucket of blossoms, tipped pink petals cascaded like blessings, draping her in a fragrant embrace. The divine, adorned in pure gold and floral finery with jewels worth more than a year's wage for many in the crowd, an opulent vision amid the fervor. As the goddess is carried into the temple, the air hums with tension, the musicians sense the shift, their tunes quicken, fierce and frenzied, the rhythm of war stirring in every beat. The chariot begins to sway, rocking side to side as if mimicking the battlefield's chaos, jewels clanging like clash of swords, each movement sharp, echoing the precision of a warrior's strike. The goddess's presence fills the space, her energy commanding every body and soul in the room as she begins her war victory dance. A symphony of sacred sound. Conch shells pierce the air with their sacred blasts. Women screech their best kulavai. Devotees throw flowers, their spirits ignited, while some caught in the whirlwind of a trance scream. The tempo quickens and the goddess descends to her sanctum, where she finds solace. Thus begins the long night, as volunteers fan the searing coals with palm leaves, the fire breathing in the darkness, milk poured into a puddle at the end of this runway of pain or devotion. The heat is a living thing, so fierce it scorches the air. As volunteers douse themselves with water, attempting to kill it, their skin glistening and raw against the flame. The army of ambulances stands at the ready. Half of the country's best burn specialists and emergency doctors stay on standby, in tents close by, with the other half stationed in the nearest hospital. In the case of an intense accident, they watch just as intently as the crowd gathering around, waiting for the event to start. It seemed like it was quite a spectacle. Nervousness ripples through the devotees as they approach the fiery path. Some gaze skyward with their confidence ignited, believing God will guide their steps, while others tremble, their faces locked into an expression of fear, their eyes flitting to the glowing coals, with whispered prayers trembling on their lips. As the devotee steps onto the path of fire, the heat slashes through the air. Each footfall lands on glowing coals, hissing and spitting beneath the weight of belief. And in that instant, devotion becomes flesh, bound by pain and faith alike, the flesh swelling like helium balloons. The scent of human char mingling, mixed with the acrid stench of burning air, a scream erupts, tearing from the now raw throat, vibrating the air around them and peeling away the last veil between the mortals and the divine. Blood rushes, a hot tide surging beneath the skin's surface. The mind struggles with the veins pulsating in a fevered dance, while the skin blisters and cracks, oozing viscous liquid mingling with the ashes and heat. With every step, the world narrows to the relentless fire beneath, each agonizing moment stretching into eternity, as if the ground itself is an altar demanding sacrifice, where the flesh is laid bare and the soul dances precariously on the brink of surrender. Each heartbeat echoes as quick as the tawil far away, in reality a reminder of mortality, of the flesh that is both a vessel and a cage, as the fire licks hungrily, devouring the essence of their devotion. What was once a pure symbolic event, a depiction of a scene in the Mahabharata, has morphed into this, a fervent display of devotion, with many fasting for months, willing to walk on literal fire. Their hopes intertwined with pain in the name of belief. How have we come to this? In search of wishes to be fulfilled, they tread a path of flames, transforming faith into something close to despair, a desperate plea for the divine amidst the chaos of life. Religion makes people do incredible things, molding bodies into vessels of faith, where pain becomes a testament to devotion and sacrifice turns into the only language understood by the gods. In the end, as the night draws on, with all the grandeur loud and bright, with all the songs that fill the night, with all the wealth draped in plain sight, with all the drama in God's light, with all the prayers whispered low, with all the drums that fiercely grow, with all the faith on display, with all the hope and fear that never ever strays, in the dance of fire and spirit, what price do we have to pay? When the flames of devotion burn bright, do we find ourselves, or do we lose a piece of ourselves to the blaze? When God Burns, by Imrpenguinoman. Thank you for watching. I encourage you to check out the rest of the series, follow if you enjoyed, and stop by Twitch if you want to share your own work. See you there.